Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture, the penultimate Justice League Monday, looking at Justice League America number 51, and Justice League Europe number 27 from June 1991. Starting college then. Good times, and to be honest with you, at that point, I was not really buying the books. In college, I started getting a little bit out of comic books for a while. So these are ones that I had to buy later on. Kind of fun to be able to see the story unfold, though, as we've done from issue number 1, starting in January of this year. So in Justice League Europe, we're continuing the Starro story line. A little bit of a tongue twister. Justice League America, the next couple issues are sort of one-shot, kind of fill-in ones, because there's a really big storyline coming for both of these books. It's just a couple, 3 issues away. Now, we're not going to be delving into it in Justice League Monday because we're pretty much at the end of the year. I might do a video, and not necessarily right away in 2026, but I might do a video where I go over the breakdowns storyline that appeared in both of these books. To sort of wrap it up, because that was sort of Giffen and DeMatteis' swan song on the book, writing as a team. All right, we'll get to that when we come to it, though. Right now, we're going to deal with these. So let's first take a look at Justice League America, and a little bit of a boys' night out. This one, of course, Giffen, DeMatteis, Hughes, and Rubenstein. Yes, Adam Hughes is back on the book for this one as fan favorite. Is that actually true? That's probably not actually true. Writer favorite, Nort, returns to the Justice League. Yeah, okay, sure. They told him never to return. They said they would, feed him to the wolves if he did. But that's just because, just like his dad and mom, they could never really show affection. So he shows up. John decides not to turn the security system on him, although after he thinks about it for a minute, he says, well, turn it back on, Elron. Too late, your alienosity. So he gets in, and who does he run into but Liberty, General Glory's pup. Oh, look at the cute little guy. Kind of reminds him of when he was a toddler. And he's convinced himself that the reason he can't find anybody else right away is they've planned a surprise party. But as John, when he does show up, explains to him, how could we plan a surprise party if we didn't know you were coming? But basically, everybody's out doing other things at the moment. And John is planning on doing a little bit of meditation, getting himself right after all the stuff they've just gone through. So Kilowog and Nort kind of hook up because, they're both aliens, both strangers to this place. And frankly, Kilowog is so incredibly bored that even hanging out with Nort sounds good. And he says, you know what we're going to do? As, by the way, we get a little shot here of B, of the green flame, or just fire at this point, I believe. Going out, because it's like getting to be nighttime. So she's going out. They're going to go out too. They're going to have a little night on the town. Elron informs the Martian Manhunter of this, and at first he's like, okay, great. Wait a minute. What? Wait. And so he runs to the cab, and he's like, no. I cannot have you guys going out. There's going to be problems. Kilowog's like, we're just going to go out and hit a few bars, hit on some babes. Yeah, isn't that right? Guy told me that's what all Earth guys do when they out. Hey, Mr. Green Jeans, let's not take all night. Is your meter running? Yeah. Then watch your personal fortune grow and keep out of this. So what they finally decide on is John is going to go with them. And he's talked them down from bar hopping to a Broadway show and a fancy dinner. Good enough. Well, they go suit shopping. They got to look good. Of course, Kilowog doesn't fit well into anything until Nort uses his power ring to give him a suit. Good idea. It would only last for like 24 hours, but that's plenty of time. John, of course, is in like his human form while this is going on. Well, another old leaguer shows up to the joint while everybody is gone. that being Booster Gold. Now, Booster had left the League to join the conglomerate, but he decided maybe he's a little bored too, decided he'd show up and hang out, maybe find Beetle or something like that. Elrond lets him know, though, that everybody's gone, and he lets him know specifically that John, Nort, and Kilowog are going out on the town, and he's like, oh, I believe I'll hang around until the police call. The police? Why are the police going to call? Oh, yeah, trust me. Trust me, they're going to call. Well, he's not far off, because there's a slight incident at the Broadway show they decide to go see. Nort is basically a dog and also, well, kind of dumb. So, he basically makes a lunge for the stage when the cats show up, and the lead falls into the orchestra pit, and it ain't good. And John is like, that's it. We're done. We're going back to the embassy. And, Kilowog's like, but, oh, come on, John. You promised us dinner, right? And what could go wrong at dinner? Come on, what can go wrong at dinner? So off they decide to go, by the way, to the Twin Towers, which in 1991 were just a couple really tall buildings in New York. And that would change a decade later. At any rate, so in they go, but there's some other folks dining at this particular restaurant, and it happens to be William Shatner. No, it's actually not William Shatner. It is the Black Hand, who, for some reason, this frame and this frame only looks just like William Shatner. Now, they're doing a little bit of like old-time mob slang here, and I wondered if it wasn't, I don't know if this came from Hughes or from who, but if they didn't think, well, you remember, Shatner doing the mobster in the Star Trek episode, maybe it's just like one scene, because, he really, you're not looking at that face and saying, it's Shatner. Look, it's Shatner. No, it's only Shatner right there. It can't be an accident. At any rate, the Black Hand, who, if you will remember, had a run-in with the League back in Justice League America number 20, back in Justice League number 28, specifically he had a run-in with Ice and with Guy Gardner, who were going out on a date. Guy took her to a disreputable theater that the Black Hand was running, and he's got this paranoia about superheroes, but he's cured now. He's been cured. And so they're out, he's with his guys, they're celebrating, and he's like, nope, we're not going to do supervillain stuff anymore. We're not going to do anything illegal, nothing distasteful, right? We're going to set up a Frank Capra film festival. We're going to be good guys from now on. No more tangling with superheroes. And that's when the guys show up. See Nort there, looking real good. And they're informed by the maitre d' there that no pets allowed. And Nort's like, who's he calling a pet? Is he saying? So they're arguing back and forth, and then they decide to use the power ring to make Nort look like a blonde Alfred E. Neuman, although they're not as much. So we've had a William Shatner sighting and an Alfred E. Neuman sighting in one book. So they do manage to get in. Meanwhile, while Booster is hanging around, Blue Beetle shows up. Now, I will say this. There's a particular thing happening in the next issue of Justice League America that I don't know if they communicated to Hughes about, because look at Beetle's abs there. That's not going to match really well with what we're going to see in the next issue of the book. Just throwing it out there, but it's comics. Don't worry about it. So, of course, Booster tells Blue Beetle what's going on, and he's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. Oops, I skipped a page. Sorry. This is going to be great. Well, our boys get in. They're having a toast, and they decide for the toast, since they're toasting being alien life forms, why don't you change back to your Martian form just for the toast? Just for the toast. And then you can go back to looking like a normal sort of American fella, right? And when he changes, who from across the room sees him change but the Black Hand? And suddenly he screams, like, what the heck? And he lunges. And specifically, he lunges at Nort. I don't know if he knew Nort was a Green Lantern, and because that was his enemy back in the day, I believe, were Green Lanterns. But he basically knocks Nort out the window, and they're like the top of the World Trade Center. So, holy mackerel, what are we going to do? Well, obviously, John flies down and saves them as Black Hand is going completely nuts. He's completely lost it. Nort doesn't know what's going on. Do you want my autograph? If you do, I better sign it before we hit the ground, because I'm not going to be able to sign it then. Kilowog, meantime, gets in a fight with the Black Hand's thugs, and when the cops show up, they think that he is, a bad guy. This is post-alien invasion in DC Comics, so, maybe you can't fault the police for assuming the worst. And it is finally then that Booster and Blue Beetle get the call from the police. Oh, they're so excited because they have been read the riot act many a time by John Jones for their antics, which they deserved, by the way. But now they get to bail the Martian Manhunter out of jail. And Martian Manhunter is not going to let John Jones forget about it. Beetle! So, funny little issue there. We end, obviously, with some of the people who work on the book in the mental institution, along with the Black Hand, who's, he's lost it completely at this point, the poor guy. Next issue, the fight of the century. What could that possibly mean? Well, we'll find out next issue. So let's take a look now at Justice League Europe, as I arrange everything over here. Justice League Europe number 27. So here we're continuing the Starro storyline. So a little bit more superhero action-packed. Not as much a little comedy episode like what we got in Justice League America. So the League gets back from helping Starro. You'll remember they repaired his spaceship, Kilowog did, and it blew up as it took off. And they don't know this, but it spread his stars all over London. So they get back, and seems kind of empty, and the cat's kind of freaked out. And they find Inspector Camus, who looks like he's gone nuts. He's sort of huddled in this corner. He goes, don't let them know I'm here. Don't let them know I'm here. And they're like, what the heck is going on? So they go and look for Sue and Catherine and find out that they have already been seized by Starro. Holy mackerel. And in fact, so has DeMatteis' wife and kids. And she brings in a tray of the stars, who immediately launch themselves and take over the human members of the League. And by that, I mean people without any protection. Now, Captain Atom is covered by this inorganic substance. Rocket Red is in his armor, and Metamorpho is just not human anymore. So all of a sudden, it's those three against everybody. And they decide the only thing they can do is sort of run. Because A, they certainly can't go into combat against normal human beings. And B, Starro is controlling these people and he wants to just kill them. And they can't really fight back properly against their friends because it's not their fault. So we get a big brouhaha and they have to flee. And they get out, and Rocket Red is able to see that pretty much everybody in the city is now conquered, owned by Starro. He found one guy who was fleeing, but they caught him and they starred him. And then Camus, who now has been captured, and some other, police with their guns show up. start firing at them. They flee once again. They say, we got to get the rest of the League in on this. But we can't go use the tubes. So they have to fly across the Atlantic. How long does that take them? Don't know. But they do make it across. And John Jones is like, okay, I'm going to go in and see what I could do. We got to find, like the central control star of Starro. And he figures since he can shapeshift and he's a telepath and all that, he's going to be better at that than everybody else is. But obviously the other three are going to go along with him. And the reason that they're so worried is they find by hooking into the JLE computers that he's looking for, shipping companies, trucking companies, air freight, etc. He's clearly planning on expanding well beyond England. So that's the big plan. They boom tube into the embassy. Captain Adam, Metamorpho, you see them right there. They boom tube in along with Rocket Red. And actually, John Jones is with them, though he's changed his shape, so they don't know that he's there. Kilowog, of course, has been conquered. And now Starro knows what those tubes are for. And he says, oh, that's going to help immeasurably in spreading my influence over the world. I can just use those tubes. I don't need boats and trucks and all that other kind of stuff. So they manage to get out of there. And John takes the form of a woman with the Starro starfish on her face so that they can sneak around. Pretty much, though, Starro just lets them leave, too. Now, he doesn't know about the Manhunter right away, but he lets the other ones leave because he's like, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to me. So they go looking with his telepathy for the main Starro, the starfish that is the central control. And they find him in the sewers. And in fact, there he is. There's that beggar that they had found. And so he attacks, John Jones, not realizing that just because he's in the form of a normal person, he still has all of his powers. And they go into it, hammer and tongs, and John Jones gets kind of savage. He slams this guy down, on the pavement there. I mean, it's like, what the heck? Well, there's a reason he did that, and that's because there's no star on his face, is there? No. Starro has managed to conquer John Jones while they were fighting. Now he has a body powerful enough to take on the League, even without all of his minions. Next, Star-Crossed. Okay, so very interesting. Starro is an old villain for the Justice League. He was there right about at the beginning, if not the very, very beginning. No, the first one was, I think he's maybe in the first issue of Justice League of America, but not the first Justice League of America story, because that was in Brave and the Bold, I think is where those were. So he's an old-time villain for the League. And they came up with something interesting to do. Starro decided that his giant bulk was actually a detriment to conquering the Earth. So he conceives a plan to get the League to put him up in that spaceship so it'll explode. He's transferred his consciousness into one of the small stars. They rain down over London, and that's how he's going to take over the world. So they came up with an interesting little twist. And of course, the whole we can't fight our friends, we can't fight innocent people issue is in there as well. So how are they going to do it? We'll find out next issue how they manage to deal with Starro. Little funny issue here. We've just had a 3-part General Glory storyline, so this is kind of a break from it. And again, we got a real big storyline coming in both these books. They need to finish up the Starro story over here. So we get a couple, you could almost call them filler issues. But again, even when they're filler issues for the Justice League America, you get, they're funny usually, right? You get some comedy, but they always are pretty good at giving a little character development. And again, not just to the heroes, but also to the villains. So there you go. Justice League America, number 51. Justice League Europe, number 27. the penultimate Justice League Monday. The next one is the last one, folks. And then we're going to switch to a new series on Mondays. We'll talk about that more. I mean, I've talked about it in the past, so if you've been watching these, you'll know. But we'll talk about it more next episode. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. If you have any comments, throw that in the comments. That's what it's actually there for. It's not just a clever name. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Read some Justice League America. Look, I'm finding a bunch of these at my local comic shop, and these too, for $1 a pop. I found them in another one for 50 cents a pop. It's an affordable series to get into if you want the floppies. And of course, you can also find like trade paperbacks and stuff like that. I highly suggest you check it out because it's a really good series and a really interesting series for its time. But again, more on that next time. So God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. I will see you again, hopefully soon, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.